Hey, I tell you what, the Shooters Pod is the place. If you want NBL news, great banter, health tips, behind the scenes conversations about the NBL, whether it's from the media side or the players side, this is the place to be.
Hello, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day for yesterday. Hope love was in the air. It was over here, and I know it always is for Jack, as I feel like you're an absolute romantic at heart. We'll touch on our Valentine's plans, what we had yesterday, but, how are you doing? How are you doing first and foremost?
Well, first off, and most importantly, we have to apologize to the listeners because this episode is being released on a Friday. Now, Darren, would you like to go into a little bit of detail of why that was? Because this week it was not my fault.
Actually, yes, no, true. That's a very good point. Not your fault. Technically, not my fault. It was Melbourne's weather fault. So I know most of our listeners are probably from Tassie, but Melbourne had a shocker. There was blackouts, power outages. My mum still doesn't even have power. So from the time I said to you I didn't have power, she still doesn't have power. So there's something chaotic going on, but hopefully everyone without power is doing well. But I've got power, hence why I can record now. But no, that night was weird. Like, it went out at 4 p.m. on the Tuesday, didn't come back until around 6 a.m. the next morning, which was very odd. Our dinner plans got messed up, our any plans got messed up, and it was just a weird feeling. I was saying to you before, what the hell do you do for a night with no power? Like, we had candles, but like that's not good enough to read, kind of thing. It's a question that I throw out to you. What would you do if you had a full night, no power? How would you keep yourself entertained?
Well, it was a weird one because I grew up on northern New South Wales, and so we get pretty intense storms there once or twice a year. And so I would say when I was a kid, like, we used to turn the lights out. Dad used to chase after us and scare us, and we'd run around the house hiding and kind of almost playing hide and seek. And it was always an exciting night when the power went out. When we were kids, it was always a little scary, a little fun, something different, play some cards, get the candles. So it was always a fun experience when storms were happening. This is what I was talking about the other day, that I enjoy storms, not to the point where they're hurting houses. Shout out to my boy Andrew Price, who's battling that right now in the war because his house got messed up. But as a kid, I used to love the storms. Now, if the power went out, I don't know, mate. I'd probably just go to bed. At this point in the season, as much sleep as I can get. Goes out at 4. I'm going to bed at 6. Might Uber eat something if I can't cook, and get some Chinese or some Thai and be good to go. But obviously, it's a great question to ask. But you've got the answer since it did go out. So what did you do the night that the power went out?
Well, firstly, I was going to say, well, you're an adult now, so maybe playing hide and seek or whatever probably wouldn't be the most sensible option, not most sensible, but, just the most realistic option. But, I mean, I was kind of with you. I was kind of like getting tired around like even 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, because I was just kind of bored, and like it was just like scary how much we rely on electricity these days and power. Even my phone wasn't working. Like, I was trying to text people and stuff, and just the mobile networks were just messing up. So, look, we tried puzzling. We have a few puzzles to do, which is always a nice sort of activity away from technology. But once again, the light got too dark, and we were like, cool, what's next? And we literally just sat on the bed like, do we go for a drive? Like, do we just drive somewhere and do something? But no, I literally just sat there. And then I think I just ended up nodding off for a bit. And I don't know. Before I know it, I could actually go to sleep at a respectable time, but it was a weird time. It was very odd.
Nice. What was the puzzle?
Ooh, so we've got one from my mum. She gave us just a nice scenery one. But speaking of puzzles, Jess's brother Ben, he gave us like a massive puzzle that's literally I think it's like 3 meters or something. And it's like a full Disney thing. Anyway, it was like a housewarming. I have no idea where we're going to fit that thing or where we're going to put it. It's kind of really inconvenient, but I'm sure it'll be fun to do.
Well, there you go. If you're ever wondering if the power went out for a week, where Darren is, Darren's doing his 3 meter long puzzle. But with all that being said, we appreciate you guys. We're filming this on a Thursday evening, and we're hoping to get it out to you on a beautiful Friday so you can prepare for this crazy blitz home on the last regular season round of the NBL. But Valentine's Day was yesterday. It's always a special day, no matter how you feel about it, whether you've got someone you love, whether you hate it and think it's society creates a day to, buy more things that we don't need to show love, when really we should just be showing our love in our own daily way. But whatever, that's a whole different conversation. But what did you do for Valentine's Day, Darren?
I was going to ask you what you stood on that, whether you were just like one of those people like, we should be nice to each other every day. We should make dates for each other like every other week kind of thing. But anyway, like you said, that could be a whole different podcast. But no, we just treated ourselves to a nice dinner, Italian, lovely pasta joint on Toorak Road, if anyone is familiar with Melbourne, just like along that stretch, South Yarra area. Great food, great people there. I have no complaints. We were pretty tired, so we were pretty keen to get home and just relax. But good food. They gave us a little heart chocolate at the end as well, which capped it off. So it was lovely. How was yours though?
Yeah, a little heart chocolate to finish off the day. Mine was good. Obviously, we're deep in the long distance as the season closed down to the end, but we find our ways to be romantic. So we both ordered some Chinese, some Uber Eats. We get it to arrive at the same time. We make our little dessert together, homemade little dessert, which is like a little Nutella calzone, which we don't do very often, but we always look forward to it on those special occasions. And then what we've done is we actually go out. We went and both bought, we've been doing this for a while, like a fresh deck of Uno. And then we play Uno against each other. So we like play it down on the screen and you can see the screen. And then we always get like a year game going to see who's the champion. Right now, we've been together for 4 years and it's 2-2. But we've got epic games right now, best kicking my butt in 2024. But we played some Uno, ate some food, and just chatted, and it was a very lovely night.
That's a great routine. Wait, so you only play Uno on Valentine's Day?
And no, not on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
We play Uno all the time.
Okay, that's cool. Look at that. I like that. Gotta have those routines. I'm sure the viewers love us talking about this stuff, but you were in Melbourne. You were in Melbourne. You were playing some ball. I've got to be honest, I was there, and I'm going to say it wasn't the most exciting game I've ever been to, but look, a win's a win. You guys, like every win is important this season, but how was it for you guys? I saw like you probably got a bit more time on the bench towards the end, but how was it overall?
Well, first off, it was an epic weekend for us with the club, with Jack Jumpers. One, it secured another positive season where we won more than we lost, which is very hard to do in this league. Good. Secondly, it secured our playoff position. And yes, we can slip from third place, but I think we'd have to lose by 100 points and someone else would have to win by 100 points. So it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So overall, it was a big game for us. And when we were sitting there with 2 weeks to go, 2 weeks ago, we were sitting there 12-all. Anything could have happened. We could have lost some games and been out of the playoffs very easily. But we stepped it up. We've won our 3 games in a row. And so that game was enjoyable. Some of the other guys got some more minutes. I was on the bench cheering on, having a great time. And although for some people, like yourself, it wasn't as exciting, for us, it was extra exciting.
It was still exciting. Although the most exciting part was post-game, where we got to meet those lovely Tassie fans. But I'll touch on them later because, spoiler alert, that's who I'm grateful for. So I'm happy to hype them up later. But that was actually really cool. So I'll touch on that later. But that was literally it was nice seeing you after the game for a bit, of course. But those fans they were good.
100%. It is always nice catching up, even if it is for a second. And obviously, Darren was there watching the game, but also doing his thing. And we had some cute little moments with throwing you off with the beautiful eye contact. But yeah, it's always good to see you. And obviously, the Tasmania Jack Jumper fans show up in Melbourne with them rocking every single time we play there. It is actually crazy.
No, it is super cool. And speaking of that video, so I'm referencing a video that I put up on the socials where Jack was just like doing his thing pre-game, super locked in, and then he glanced over. I don't know if he had an inkling that I would be there. Oh, you just gazing the crowd. I think that's the right word. Anyway, moving on, Darren. I think you were just like looking around, and then I knew you might look over, so you did, and then you literally threw me off because as soon as you made my eye contact with me / the camera, I went all hesitant. I was shaking. So I was kind of annoyed at myself because like that footage would have been cooler if it was just pure steady and we probably could have used it in some sort of broadcast like promos and stuff. But hey, it's a bit shaky because you threw me off, but it was a nice moment regardless.
100% it was. And it's always good. Both of us in the same building doing our thing. That's what this podcast really at the end of the day is all about. But we're going to jump into some more basketball specific news. And I know you want to talk about this, Darren. Hawks beat Sydney in Sydney. Hawks is a team we want to spend a little bit of time talking about today. But what did you think of that game in particular and what it meant for the ladder and the current situation heading into this last weekend?
Look, there's just something about Illawarra, there's something about Sydney, and they both aren't the same somethings. I just trust, for some reason, I whatever they're doing in Illawarra, I trust it a lot more than Sydney right now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was either Christmas or New Year's, one of those events where Illawarra did the exact same thing. They came to Sydney, won, did the exact same thing here, came to Sydney, won. So it's kind of telling. Like, I just thought to myself, it tells a story, especially around this time of the season where every win is important. I'm not 100% sure where both were on the ladder at that time because it just keeps switching. But it just made me think, like, in a playoff series or like even this weekend, if you were to trust like Sydney or Illawarra more as a team, I know who my answer is. So it's just kind of interesting how these teams kind of form their culture towards the end of the season when games are important. But Hawks, I love what you're doing. Sydney, they just feel shaky. But you never know. Teams like that, they obviously have the experience and the pedigree and all that stuff to just make a hell of a playoff run. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised, but I kind of would at the same time. I'm sitting on the fence.
So I always love asking some basketball specific questions to you because I'm the basketball expert in this relationship, although you're getting there.
No,
so that feeling that you talk about when you say you would trust Illawarra more in the playoffs than Sydney. Now, it's definitely a feeling I agree. I think right now Illawarra is the better team. This could all change, this whole opinion, in a couple of days if they lose one or two and don't make the playoffs. But I think most likely, while we're listening to this, is I think they're sitting in a pretty good place to be that fourth place team that are going to come to Tassie in a couple of weeks and compete with us. The question is, what are they doing on court that is leading to that kind of confidence, that swagger that you can feel, I can feel, the momentum they're going? And I'll start off by talking a little bit about it because I just think right now they're being held to a defensive accountable. They're being held to an accountability on the defensive end. Their coach is not afraid to sub out guys. If their stars aren't playing well, if they're not up and in on the ball pressure, he is subbing them out. He's running with dudes deep into the fourth quarter that are, Swacker's playing big minutes. They're putting athletes on the floor that are playing hard. Lucky old Brick is always crashing, being solid. And I think right now they've found this balance between that fast-paced shooting team where they shoot some crazy shots. They've found that balance now between slowing it down, getting into pick and rolls with Sam Froling, Gary Clark, and then on the other end, using their youth and their athleticism to really overwhelm teams. I mean, they've had some of the best defensive performances. They're coming into a game against Perth where they've held them to 77 points, I think it was last time they played. Bryce Cotton under 15 points. And all of that is happening at good stuff on the Illawarra end. While in Sydney, I think, haven't necessarily found that defensive identity this year. We know they're playing that fast-paced basketball. They're pushing it ahead. They've got great scorers. Everyone can score the ball. But when they need to get a stop, who are they relying on to build that pressure, to apply that ball pressure, to get up and in, to get that stop, and then be building off that momentum, working together? And I don't think right now they've found it, but there is one weekend left to go. But do you have any thoughts on what you kind of think, bouncing off what I just said?
I think it's a very good question, firstly, just to make you think about why I would trust Illawarra. But I think it could be just like a matter of them, like the players buying into their roles more. Like they kind of, I feel like they all really like Justin Tatum as a coach. And they kind of, it just feels like there's a good energy about the actual group. Like it doesn't matter if you're starting or coming off the bench. It feels like, from what I can see, no one's really pouting their heads. No one's really... It doesn't seem that negative, and I know that is because you are winning a lot of games lately. Like that's obviously going to work. But I even think about like, I don't know, like Justin Robinson. Like he can either come off the bench, he can either start, but it doesn't. Even it doesn't seem like a guy. He's a guy with NBA experience. Like he doesn't seem like he actually cares too much about coming off the bench. As long as he gets his minutes, he does his thing, they win the game, and I think that's kind of cool. And the same with Tyler Harvey. I know people question his shot selection and that kind of thing, but I think they've kind of realized that Gary Clark is kind of like the guy down the stretch, and then someone like Sam Froling is always reliable. people like Dave O'Hickey and just like bringing that spark and just, I don't know. There's just a fair few guys that you kind of trust and you can kind of like see the culture by just staring at them on the floor. So I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there are a few of those things and I trust them.
I like it. I mean, we're definitely, like normally, on the same page. Another team that I'm excited to kind of watch this this weekend, as it all comes down to the crunch time, is the New Zealand Breakers. For me, Jackson Cartwright is one of the best players in the league, and they've got some must-win basketball games. Bottom line, if they win both, I think they're into the top 6. So they've got some tough games this weekend. But what's your thoughts? Obviously, Anthony Lamb went down with the Achilles, which is tough, a season-ending injury, which will put him out for a little while. But what's your thoughts on New Zealand? Because they're a team I personally always like. They play physical. They play hard. They're well-coached, well-drilled. Do you think they're going to be making the playoffs when push comes to shove at the end of this season?
It's a good question. Like, it's genuinely hard to keep up with who can make it or who's more likely. In my head, after Sydney lost, I said to someone in the office, I'm like, is that pretty much them done? But then they were just like, no, their percentage is good enough that if they effectively win on the weekend, they're pretty much in regardless. And I was like, oh, that is not what I expected. So even someone like me who's like, I'm pretty close to the game, I'm just like, this is kind of whack with what the hell can happen down the stretch. But it's the same with New Zealand. I didn't have them as like it was hard. Like the Lamb injury obviously makes you think one way, but then it's just like there was a time where PJC was like a legit MVP contender. Like he's a hell of a player, and he's kind of seemed like the last 2 weeks when I've tuned in, he's kind of seemed like he's got back to some of that start of the season form. So I don't know. I trust them enough to make it for sure. It's just a matter of how things go and what Brisbane do and what New Zealand, obviously, who we were talking about, do. And who knows? Who really knows, Jack? I'm sitting on the fence because it's bloody hard to say. But I reckon, yeah, I don't know. The one team is definitely Sydney that I'm just shaky about. That's all I'll say.
I like it. I tell you what, this season, I know we say this every year, but this middle bunch has been one of the craziest things ever. It doesn't matter what type of expert you are. You got to sit down and you're going to be crunching numbers, doing the maths for hours to work out who can be doing this, what can be doing there, how could it all be turning out, which is making this weekend exciting. But speaking on New Zealand, we did have a couple retirements from some great players. Tom Abercrombie being one of them, a New Zealand great. What do you love about a retirement? What are your thoughts? Maybe playing the last game. Can you walk us through what do you see as a fan when you see these types of things?
I mean, it just kind of makes you appreciate them first and foremost. It was a great segue as well. New Zealand to New Zealand. Great job by you. You're really getting the knack of this podcast thing. So shout out to you. No, it's just both. So firstly, Tom Abercrombie and Brad Neely, both of them been doing their thing for a long time. Greats of the game. I feel like people probably forget what Brad Neely was like earlier because like we just remember the last this year and the back end of his career. But I don't know, Tom Abercrombie, he just strikes me as, and you can probably tell me more about this because you're a player. You probably chatted to him along the way, or obviously been in the league for a while yourself, but he just comes across as one of those guys that obviously an elite player, but just like an elite dude as well. Just like you can see he's a family man, you can see he's like a relatable guy he just seems like a good guy. And that makes us as a fan just like, hey, I like you. I respect you even further. Like it goes beyond the basketball court for people like him. So yeah, I know it's a nice shout out. We'll clip that up. But no, he does seem like just a great dude. And it reminded me of, it was the same when Kevin Lish retired. Like didn't know that much about him, but he seemed like a hell of a guy. So those guys are always great. It helps that they're good at basketball, but even better if they're decent people.
100%. I mean, Abercrombie, one of the all-time New Zealand basketball players, winning championships, over 450 games, I think it is, playing for his country, same club, which as the future goes is going to be rarer and rarer and rarer. A true professional, someone that has looked after his body, which is something I always respect. Great defender, affects winning, can shoot the ball, dunk on people, an awesome player. And then Brad Newley is always an interesting one because he hasn't spent too much time in the NBL. He started his career with the Townsville Crocs, who aren't in the NBL anymore, and then was drafted 54th to the Houston Rockets. which a lot of people don't know that about him. He was super athletic, getting downhill, dunking on people, and then spent majority of his career over in Europe, really successful. And we only kind of got to see the back end of his career, but he's been a pioneer that's represented the Boomers, plays basketball the right way. And from what I've heard, I haven't had much personally, but from what I've heard, is also a great bloke. So now two big names tying up their laces, and I'm definitely not looking forward to the day that my post goes out. But, I always respect when they give fans a moment to cheer them on, and I'm definitely looking forward to tuning in for Abercrombie's last home game, or the moment that there's a cool presentation, because they always get me in the feels.
Do you have any like stories or quick insights, or when you've crossed paths with either of those guys, or like even like a favorite moment, anything of that nature?
A story about Abercrombie, which I'm going to call out one of my boys right here, which hurts me, but Alex Madronya. We're down 25. We're playing for Adelaide. We're in the hub. We're down 25, and Alex didn't play too much this year, but he gets subbed in as the point guard. We're down 25, and Abercrombie picks this guy up. He picks up my boy full court defense. Like from the moment he checks it in, he is picking him up full court, steals it off him, goes down the end, dunks it, and then just starts talking crazy trash. And like they're up 27, and then he picks him up full court again. It was like not letting him go past him. And I remember being like, that's a professional. Like that's someone that's up 25, seeing someone, he's trying to go for that kill. He's making a statement. And that's something a moment in my mind that I definitely gained a lot of respect for him. I was like, that's what this game's about. Like you see a young fella out there, you got to go attack him. You got to say, it doesn't matter if we're up 25, like welcome to, this is what I do. And that's a cool Abercrombie moment that I've definitely locked away in my head and enjoyed.
That was the day that Alex just questioned everything about his basketball career. He's like, damn. But no, I like that, especially because I haven't seen Abercrombie trash talk that much, so I wouldn't know if he even does that. Like sometimes it's those nice, genuine guys that actually have a bit of oomph to them that you don't really expect. So that's interesting. I was going to say, there was going to be something else I was going to ask about that. Oh, how do you think you'd go in like your sort of like retirement press conference? Do you think you'd hold yourself up quite well? Do you think you'd get quite emotional? Obviously, it'd be hard to do. Maybe you could do it live on here. Maybe that's a go.
I don't think I get too emotional in the press conference and stuff. I think I'll definitely have a couple emotional moments, but it's pretty easy for me to flick that switch when I'm talking to the cameras and kind of treat that as like a professional. But I tell you what, I'll be getting emotional on the Shooters podcast when I talk about, so make sure in 10 years you guys tune in and you're listen to Jack's end of career farewell, and that's when we'll really start pumping out some episodes and content, So 10 years from now, you'll tune in for the exclusive Jack McVeigh retirement interview.
There'll be some tears. There's going to be lots of tears. That's what I aim for in these things as well. Shall we chat some awards? Shall we do that? You're going to put me on the spot. I know you are.
I would love to chat some awards because this is the last time we'll be talking before playoff basketball begins. And there's award ceremony in Melbourne for some NBL awards. Where would we like to start?
I'd like to start with what you're wearing on the night. Are you going to wear the exact same thing as last time? I think you all had a nice green tux of some description. Same thing? Same
thing. That's team rules. That's what we have to wear. We're just going to work. We're checking in for a work night, really, the Jackie's way.
I love it. I think it's a bit different this year because last year, I'm pretty sure like every player could go, but I think this year it's just you might be able to tell me how many from the Jack Jumpers are actually coming player-wise?
I think there's 5 from the Jack Jumpers, so it's definitely been a little less. Captain, a couple imports, and then, a couple of us. So, it's a smaller group. Will you be there working?
Yes, we're going to do some red carpet interviews, some photos, some award, like whoever wins the award, we'll have some chats with afterwards. I'll be wearing the exact same suit as well as last year because I've only got one. So it's not just you guys there. I'm here to work as well. No, we're going to be doing it's a fun night, just getting the players in the room all together, obviously the awards and such. And it's even better that it's always in Melbourne. Very convenient for me, of course.
Of course it is. Well, let's start with what I think is definitely the easiest award this season, the MVP. What's your thoughts?
It's Bryce. It's done. Move. What have you got now? No, actually, for how far we've come in terms of, damn, Bryce is struggling. Damn, he's I don't know. Is he is he running out of steam or is he whatever? To now where it's just like, well, this award is obvious. So I actually love it for that narrative because I never like to think poorly of the great man. So yeah, I'm sure he'll win it. Let's just say we're 93% confident. But yeah. What are your thoughts? Same?
All I'm going to say is if you guys are long-time listeners, you remember the Bryce drama to start the year. You know, is he washed up? Is his game lost? Well, this is why you guys listen to the Shooters Pod, because those other guys, those other so-called professionals, they're paid for clicks. All right? They're paid to bring in attention. They're paid to throw out their most wild takes and hope 1 in 10 land. You're listening to true professionals that just love the game of basketball, talking some common sense. And that common sense is that Bryce Cotton is Bryce Cotton and he's MVP for a reason. Let's move on. 6th man of the year. What are your thoughts?
Well, this one, I think from here it pretty much just gets tricky because MVP was the one. Yeah, I'm like, if Jack asked me, I can tell him an answer. But 6th man, I love the Jonah Bolden sort of push earlier in the season, but I feel like he's dropped off just a bit lately, probably just because the Sydney Kings have as well, if we're being honest. But I still think he's got a shot. But then Chris Smith was the other one that people were like, yep, legit shot. But even he, I think, has dropped off a bit lately. So this is actually a tough one. Then you've got the other names, like there's a few like Ian Clark and other people just floating around. Your man, Shawnee Mack, very solid, very solid. I actually don't have an answer for this one. It's one of those awards I'm actually looking forward to on the night for it to be announced because it's actually it like takes you off, it catches you off guard, and then you're like, okay, I can respect that.
I like it. Well, if I was voting or if I was choosing the awards, I'm extremely biased to when it comes to winning. So for me, like winning is weighted heavily. I truly believe that any average basketball player or good basketball player can go into a bad team or a team that isn't finding success and be selfish and get their stats and get their minutes and get their buckets, their rebounds. But to sacrifice and find ways to win and how are you training, and that is what, for me, weighs a lot. So when I look at these awards, it's hard to look past Ian Clark, who, again, their team's the best. Shawnee, Magne, where our top 3 finish, and then we've got to look at Usher's numbers, who's, I think, in that conversation too, who are coming in second. So for me, personally, I'm always going with the top 4. If you're not in the top 4, you're probably not getting a single vote for me for an award. I wouldn't even put you in first team or second team. So for me, winning is weighted very, very heavily on these awards, but I'm always backing the Jackies boys. Magne's been out there a beast, and Shawnee Mack's a primary defender every single game. So it's got to have some weight to it.
It does, and I actually like that. I like the whole even first team, second team, all NBL. Nope, you got to be winning. So it's an interesting discussion. Let's move on to next gen, which is also one that's very hard. What are your thoughts on next gen? I like that they've kind of changed the rules to anyone below 24. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. It could be 25. It could be 25 because that's the DP cutoff, like the development player role cutoff. But I'm not 100% sure. But I have an answer for this one.
Well, please do tell.
Well, I think maybe when this is all said and done, we might have to change the next gen award, the name of it, to the Sam Froling Award, because I think he's most likely going to win it. I think he won it last year. He's going to win it next year, and he's probably going to win it the year after that. So shout out to my boy Sam Froling. He's always just being a beast. He's such a young dude in the league, and to be a starting 5-man playing 30 minutes a game on a winning team, maybe could all change after this weekend, but still, shout out to Sam Froling.
See, we sometimes agree on this podcast, and other times I'll battle you a bit because I just feel like he's beyond next gen. Like he's current gen. Like he's already at that level. Like I get what you're saying because he always increases his game. He's always consistent. He's probably, if you put him head to head with any of the other guys in the conversation, you're probably like, well, he probably should win. But I reckon he's a gen. He's a current gen. That's my argument. And I'd wonder how he'd feel about winning it again. That's what I'd love to know, actually. If someone was just to ask him flat out, how would you feel about winning again? I'd love to hear his honest thoughts.
So what it sounds like there, ladies and gentlemen, this is a rare moment on this podcast, and it's not about us disagreeing. It's about Darren, who is signed by the NBL full time. That's his job, saying, NBL, I don't like your award. You know, it needs to be fixed. I have a problem with it. And I didn't know you felt that way about the award, Darren.
I like that you phrased it. I'm signed by the NBL. That's a different way of, I'm contracted. True. I don't know if I don't like the award. Maybe it's just other next gen guys lift your game. Maybe is that a better spin, perhaps. Anyway, the name I like here is I don't know his chances of winning it, but just Josh Bannon for coming into the league and like he already screams like a great culture guy, a great cornerstone to your franchise. So even if the numbers might not stack up, or maybe the hype compared to like Tui and Sarr and other guys, even if the hype doesn't stack up to that, I think there's something to be said about almost just someone you trust heap going forward. And I feel like he's that guy.
I like that. Most improved. We jump into this, and I always think this is a fascinating award because if you guys know me, I freaking love development. I love skill development, basketball development, life development. So it's something I'm very, very passionate about, talking about development. And most improved is really rewarding the person they think developed the most. Now, there's one thing I don't love about this award. And sometimes it's weird. It's a hard one to say because I get it, but when someone changes team and gets more opportunity, it doesn't always necessarily mean they've developed as a player. Benny Air, for example, is one of those guys where he's had a big stat increase, right? And he played very well. He had a great season. And you know my boy Benny, I absolutely love my boy Benny. But if he was playing 25 minutes last year, I truly believe he would have been out there cooking, doing the exact same thing. Now, you can make an argument to say that, well, if he was better, he would have been out there doing more. And that is true, and I respect that. But I just love looking at it truly from a basketball perspective of saying who added stuff to their game, who's become a completely different basketball player, who looks different, moves different, has different moves, has developed a jump shot, added stuff to their game. And for me, that person this year is Galloway. I think he's someone that barely played last year, wasn't a real threat. You knew he was quick. When this year, he had some big games, big moments. He's been a beast. And for me, Galloway has improved all aspects of his game and looks like a completely different basketball player this year than he did last year.
That's a good discussion about the whole Benny Air thing. It's just like, how much, is it an improvement? Is it a different situation? Is it different minutes, different team structure, like everything? But I'm on the same page as you. I've joined your crew once again because Jalen Galloway was my guy as well. I was like, the fact that he's suddenly risen to like the level that people are like, can he go to the NBA like straight away after this and just fill the end of a roster and get some experience? The fact that he's at that level and he's getting that nod, he's getting the recognition even on defense and things like that. It'd be great to go back and just sort of look at his games where he did play a fair few minutes last season and just compare the pair. But I reckon there'll be a hell of a difference in terms of just noticing him on the floor and doing his thing. So I agree. Good job there.
I like it. Look at us on the same page, making friends, not enemies.
It's great.
Defensive player of the year. What's your thoughts?
I've got another solid answer as well because it actually might have helped. If anyone hasn't looked at Joe Lual-Achua's press conference for basically, I think he's just hyping up Shea Ely, saying it's a crime that he's never won Defensive Player of the Year. That has sold me as well because I think it's got to be Shea. Like it is pretty crazy that he hasn't won it before, just in terms of the type of player that he is. I feel like we talk about his name a lot in that category, but it's just never happened. So that's my man. Do you have a leader?
I do. Last year, back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year, incredible basketball player, played for the Adelaide 36ers, but I think someone was robbed. And that someone, in my opinion, was Derek Pardon, who was the best defensive player, a beast, on the best defensive team. They had the best defensive rating. They were a championship quality team, while Adelaide had the worst defensive rating. Now, we talked about it earlier. I love team importance. I think it has to come into these awards. And so I love the Illy vote. I agree, but I've always got to back my boy Mags. He has the individual best defensive rating in the league, and the Jack Jumpers are currently second best defensive team in the league. So, I got to be biased maybe a little bit, but I'm always giving some love to my boy Mags. But I think Illy and Mags, it's between them two. Shout out to Sam McDaniel, though, who also has had a great defensive year. I've loved watching him do his thing for Brisbane, especially coming off some injuries last year. And yeah, that's it. That's an exciting award.
Yeah, no, there's definitely been. I was thinking when I was talking about this that Magnate deserves a shout out regardless of if he's on your team or not, because there are moments where you just kind of laugh at how impactful he is on that end. Like he just causes chaos out there, and it's very enjoyable to watch. Yeah, that's fair. Coach of the year. This is a funny one because you asked me this how many weeks ago? Who knows? But I said Justin Schuller because he was getting all the love, but I may have changed my tune. I may have switched up on my man.
Well, you've switched up. You've made that a public right now. Who have you switched up to? What are you feeling?
Well, it's kind of like it's my vote if a certain thing happens, and I'm saying if Illawarra finish 4th, then it has to be Justin Tatum, right? It has to be. I just feel like we were talking about the culture before. Clearly, something's changed, and the only thing that has visibly changed is the coach. Even though I think the players probably understand their roles more now, and they do their stuff out there, but. You can be half coach of the year, but his half year has been that good that it just elevates him to coach of the year, I think. It's a very cool story, and it's just a great. If they finish 4th, it's pretty crazy.
I agree. I think coach of the year award, I think, is the hardest award to vote for because no one has any view into the inner sanctum. So no one that's voting on it gets to see daily. They don't do interviews of the players of what they think of the coach, and there's no real insight into how good this coach is. So for me, I always argue, should it just be whoever comes first gets the Coach of the Year award because they've done the best job in recruiting the players, putting in their system, and winning the most games. And so it's this weird conversation I always have in my head. And then I would argue that with the Justin Tatum, his record is one of the most winning records. I agree that the way the awards voted, that if they come 4th, then he should get it. There are some other factors that go into it. Justin Schuller turning kind of the culture of a team around. But John Reilly's come 2nd. He's implemented his system and created a winning year. There's arguments you can make for everyone, and I think this is always one of those hard ones to vote for. Ones I don't never feel confident on, but I think I'm with you. If Illawarra comes 4th, should be Justin Tatum, and then if I was voting, I'd almost just always vote for the team that comes first because technically they've done the best job.
It's true. You can't argue that logic. We're going to quickly touch on all NBL teams. I'm not giving you my full 5. Sorry to disappoint. But you sparked just an idea or a conversation quickly before when you were talking about Defensive Player of the Year. And little insight into NBL headquarters or circle. But we had basically a big ideas strategy session for moving ahead. And one of the ones that I came up with was very related. It related to, do you remember Antonius Cleveland winning Defensive Player of the Year? And then he said something about we should make a team, all defensive team in the NBL. That was one that I was just like, hey, that's a great point. The whole world now in the basketball landscape is it's pretty much offense. Maybe not the whole world, but NBA, it's very much offense. Cool, we're going to score 130 a night and not blink an eyelid. It was cool to see Perth score 117 the other night. That was pretty cool. Anyway, I'm talking about defense here. Do you like that idea? All defensive team?
I do like that idea, man. It'd be pretty cool to reward people that we think is the best defenders in their positions, to give some love to that role. It's such an important role, and I think it would be pretty damn cool.
Tick of approval. Good. I like it. All NBL. One specific thing I was going to ask about all NBL. How do you feel as a player if because your name has constantly been circled in the first team or the second team? How does that feel? Just do you look into it much? Do you have much riding on that? Or is it just it's out of my hands. I do what I do on the court and the rest is up to the other people?
Well, what you just said to end that sentence is the way to perfectly approach almost everything in life. But it's not always that simple / easy to do that. I would say perception is a funny thing because 2-3 weeks ago, if you told me I would win an all NBL second team, I would have been like, oh, oh shit, hell yeah, let's go. Like, that's crazy. What an honor. Like, damn, I didn't even think about it for 1 second, like, it wasn't a goal. I didn't even contemplate it. Then all of a sudden this conversation starts up about, all NBL first team, all NBL second team. When now, if I didn't make one of them, I'd be cut. I'd definitely be a little bit sad. And now if I didn't make first one, I'd be like, damn, maybe I should have been. So it's funny how perception changes a lot of what you kind of would be happy with. But saying all that, it would be a great honor, either one. But I just want to win some basketball games, man. And who was all NBL second team last year? Who
Sure.
Or the year before that? Or who was all NBL first team the year before that? So at the end of the day, who really cares? I know that sounds crazy, but I tell you what, I just want to win a championship with the boys because they deserve that, and that's what I'm focused on.
And people remember that. There's no arguing that one. That's all I've got on all NBL stuff. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it in general. Hype someone up. I just want to hype someone up. Go on a bit of a rant. Anyone that's caught our attention, just give him some love.
My hype up is, I've done it quite a bit, but I don't really care. It's Bethany Heft again today because it was her birthday this week. So shout out to her, 28 years old, just doing good stuff. And then hyping up another one of my friends because I've been spending a lot of time with him. Shout out to my boy, Anthony Drimmick. He's playing some great basketball right now, about to have his second kid any day now. He's just grown into a great man, great friend, and I'm just enjoying spending some time with him, getting to know his son, Levi, and life's pretty good. So I'm hyping them up, grateful for them both. That's all of mine intertwined. That's my hype up and my grateful is just both of them because been loving spending some time with them. That's what life's all about, is spending time with people you love, and I'm grateful / hyping them up at the same damn time.
I like it. There is one thing I have to critique about Anthony Drimmick. Can we get the beard back? Do you reckon it's ever coming back, or is it long gone? Do you reckon it's just like that's a phase that he's going to leave in the past?
He's been rocking the goatee, maybe not that long, for 10 years now, but I love him. As a friend, I'm pushing him. I like the clean skin. I think he looks sharp. He looks younger. And that way I'm trying to get him, keep his career longer. It looks younger, looks fresher, looks cleaner, looks neater. So I push him every day. Shave that shit, Drew.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I was just curious. Well, I liked it up both ways. But anyway, I'm just going to hype up the Opals for booking a spot to Paris. That is cool. Good job by you girls doing your thing in, where were they playing? Like Brazil or somewhere like that? Not even sure, but got the job done over there. And also keeping on that theme, Amy Atwell got a spot training camp deal with the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA. I think I got that factually correct. So just a cool thing from the women's side of the game. Grateful for. I think you already know what I'm going to go with, but I'm going to let you go.
Wow, this is a negative space. I'm just going to start chucking up random things I'm grateful for.
This is incredible. This is the best grateful for I've ever heard.
I did my grateful hype up combo. It's all you right now. This is your segment today.
Oh, yes. I love how you're just like, what the hell? I've already ticked it off. No, the Tassie fans were genuinely, it was very like wholesome. Just, so Kirsten messaged me on Instagram. So her son Fletcher has made not an appearance on the podcast, but has gotten a shout out on the podcast. And she was just like, you at the game today? We'd love to meet you. And I'm like, me? You want to meet me? So it was kind of cool. And then I looked over and then she described where they were sitting. And all four of them, her husband, 2 kids, were just like waving at me with their Tassie jerseys. They were directly behind your bench. And it was just cool to meet them. So shout out to her, Fletcher, Sadi. I think that's how you know that's how you say the daughter's name. The husband's name, didn't get that, but shout out to you, great man, as well. But it was just cool meeting those fans, getting some photos at the end, especially because you were already taking photos with them. But then a few of them were just like, Darren, get in here. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'll happily do that. Chani as well. Got to meet her. She's a great, loyal listener of the podcast. Finally got to meet her. She actually met my brother the other week thinking it was me. So good to meet her as well. But you've got some good fans over there in the Jack Jumpers. They seem like a wholesome bunch. I'm sure not all of them are as lovely as those 2 specifically, but I just very much enjoyed that moment because I'm like, this is cool. This is a cool moment.
No, I tell you what, nothing better than the Jackies fans. They travel to Melbourne. Shout out extra hard to the Shooters fans. But look at that, how life changes quickly. Darren, 1 second behind the camera, next second in front of it. Well, I'll tell you what, you've done a great job with this podcast, mate, and you absolutely deserve every single second of it.
No, it's a joint effort, of course. But no, I appreciate that. It is cool building the community we have. And yeah, it was just enjoyable. And it was just one of those things where like when you're telling your family, you're just like, hey, this is what happened. You're like, that is pretty cool. So shout out to her, Kirsten, Shani, family, all the other JJ supporters. Yeah, that's enough for me. But you got some, I'm spreading love on almost Valentine's Day, even though we missed it.
That's nice. Well, is that a wrap up for this beautiful episode?
I think it might be. Some quick fan questions, actually. I lied. I think do your parents share an Instagram account? I think they might.
Yes, my dad mostly uses it though.
So he was just like, Jack, do you think you look more like your mum or your dad? And I'm like, great question.
Shout out to my pops. Eyebrows like him, nose like my mum. I'd say because I'm male, I would get considered more my dad, but I definitely have more of my mum's features.
I look a little more like my mum, I think. I think that's what people have said. So,
Nice.
but nobody asked me. They didn't ask that question. And last but not least, we were just asked if our schedule was to rapidly clear this afternoon, how would we spend it? Simple as that.
It's 5:30 p.m. here right now. So the rest of I'm going to eat some dinner. Mine is clear. I'm going to eat some dinner, FaceTime Beth, and lie in bed and do absolutely nothing. What about yourself, Darren?
That sounds beautiful. Mine's going to also be dinner and chill. Married at First Sight. If any fans are out there, I'm severely behind. I need to catch up. Everyone at work keeps talking about it, and I feel like I am missing out a lot. So I'm going to try to do that. Although the NBL is on, so maybe I should prioritize watching Perth versus Illawarra over maths. But we'll see. What are you having for dinner, by the way? Always like hearing from that.
I've meal prepped pesto pasta this week, so I'm going to cook it up on the stove, chuck some cheese on it, and I'm good to go.
That's one of my favorites. I'm having tacos. Thank you for asking. I'm very excited to have it. Going to cook this after this episode. So delicious. Take it away, Jack. Good catching up with you now and in person during the week. And go play some basketball once again.
More Darren time, the better my life is. That's why we started this podcast, to share some Darren to the world. So thank you very much for having a chat, catching up with me on the weekend. One last question. This is going to be the last word that we say on today's podcast. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Darren, what type of meat are you putting in your taco tonight?
Beef. Just some beef.
Beef. Let's go.
Wow, that was underwhelming.